So welcome everybody. Happy New Year's. We are going to be talking about manifesting today. A lot of this is things that I've learned on my own about manifesting. One thing that really irritates me or gets to me sometimes is when people, I don't want to say gaslight, but sort of like, oh, it's so easy. All you do is this one thing, right? Just do the one thing to manifest. And while it can be really, really easy to manifest things, there are a few different components to it. There's about 6 different aspects of manifesting that I like to look at. And we're going to be practicing quite a few of those today. The first one is one that everyone's out there teaching all the time, which is the asking, right? So there's so many meditations out there about, just asking for the thing. And that's what we teach you in the manifested meditation. That's going to be the last thing that we act to do today. There have been times where I've been really guilty of actually doing this part where I'm confounded because something isn't happening in my life. I go up to the creator and I'm like, why isn't this happening? And the creator's like, well, you forgot to ask for it. I'm like, oh my gosh, I did forget to ask. Right? So I'll just take a moment, pause, go up to the creator and see that come in really quickly. And just like with healing, right? When we ask for healing, it's going to happen unless there's a blockage. So the second thing you really want to look at with manifesting is making sure that you're clearing your blocks, period. And that is what we're going to practice that in a little bit, doing the manifesting digging. But yeah, you can ask for something over and over and over again, but if you feel subconsciously that's impossible for you to have that, or if you feel like that doesn't exist for you, or if your ancestors feel that that's going to hurt you in some way for you to get your manifestation, no matter how many times you ask, it's just not going to happen. So my big ancestor story was when I was getting ready to become an instructor for advanced DNA. I signed up. I was all ready to go. I was looking at where I was going to stay in Greece, because that was the first time it was being offered that year. And as soon as I got really solid, like I'm really going to do it, as soon as I got committed, all of my business disappeared. I didn't have any Theta clients. And the app that I was working for just flattened out because it was kind of sporadic to begin with. So I said, okay, cool. I'll just catch the next one. And as soon as I literally said that in my mind, everything came back. I got calls for new clients. I was cleaning more houses. Everything was great. So a little while later, I'm like, okay, here's the next class, signed up for it. Same thing happened. As soon as I committed to doing it, everything bottomed out. And of course, it happened the third time. So after the third time, I'm waking up and I'm realizing there's a pattern. Because sometimes I'm a little slow to recognize these things. It just wasn't just a weird coincidence. There was really something else going on. So to solve the money problem, I called my mom. And of course, it gets funnier. She's like, okay, of course I'll loan you the money. She sends me the check. It gets lost in the mail, goes back to her. She sends me another one. And then the bank is like, we're going to hold on to this because she uses a small bank in the middle of nowhere. I'm like, okay. So I just got in my car and drove to Montana thinking we're going to figure this out, right? I let the office know what's happening and they were flexible with getting a payment plan. Or yeah, flexible with waiting until that the cash came through from my mom. But one of the teachers or one of the assistants recognized that there was something going on with me. And she got me into the manifesting in abundance class. And I got to be the example in front of class, which is something I never asked for, but I was definitely going through some stuff. And what we discovered was I had a couple of ancestors who honestly and truly believed that if I were to get any better, any more skillful at theta healing, that people were no longer going to pay me for it. So So this wasn't my belief at all. It was these guys. Because I also had a friend who's trying to coach me through this, being like, oh, maybe you weren't meant to be a theta healing teacher. Maybe it's not in your divine timing. Maybe that's what this means. And I'm like, no, if I feel it in my gut, I'm supposed to do this. This is just something else blocking me. And after that class, about 90 days after we did that class, everything was completely different. Just so you know, there is sometimes a little bit of a lag time when you're doing major belief work, especially when you're changing something huge. Because right now you're creating what you're going to have in your life about 90 days out, just so you know. But doing the belief work is pretty huge when it comes to creating what you want and really manifesting what you want. And there's a few different ways for you to figure out what you need to work on. The one can be when you're writing out your list and you sort of feel like, oh, I don't get to have that, or that's impossible, or I'm asking for too much. So if you have those feelings come up as you're making your list, those feelings you're having right there are going to stop it from manifesting. So you want to make sure you clear that. So looking into, asking yourself, is it possible for me to have this? Is it reasonable for me to have this? So look at all the things at your list and making sure, or even muscle testing, that you really believe that you get to, and that it's possible for you to have those things. The other thing you can do with your list is, if you put something on your list multiple times and it hasn't happened and there's been no action towards that manifesting in your life, and that can also signal that you have a block. I had an interesting thing where I went through a phase of only having exactly 3 students in every single class, which annoyed my Virgo self because it changed how we break people off into groups. And it was funny. Every time I'm like, okay, creator, why am I at 3? And I'd get a different answer every time. And I kept clearing it over and over and over again. So besides doing, So when I see things showing up repeatedly or not showing up repeatedly, the first thing I do is ask the creator what I need to work on to change that. The other style of digging that you can do to help with your manifestations is, you can imagine what it would really feel like to have that in your life. We teach this, it's the same style of manifestation digging that we teach in basic and dig deeper, where you walk up to the creator and you imagine and really put yourself in the energy of what it's like to have something. And then you keep expanding that vision, or your partner keeps expanding the vision until you hit whatever it is, whatever fear, whatever belief, whatever anxiety keeps you from having what you want in your life. Because as you're asking for something, your subconscious or your deep fears of your ancestors are sometimes being like, nope, it's not going to happen, and here's why. And when it comes to things you're going to create in the future, your higher self knows exactly how you will feel once you have everything that you want to create, right? Same with your undercurrent, right? Your soul knows how stressed you are going to be, and therefore what will protect you from the stress. So some people, when they're doing the manifesting digging, will just be like, oh no, that's easy peasy, I'll just hire someone to do that. And it's good if you go a little bit deeper, right? Because that is your conscious mind being like, oh, that's easy to solve. So it was good to look at really what are the things that could possibly stress you out if you were to have everything you'd ever wanted. And we'll talk a little bit more of that before we go into the breakout rooms. But the next section that you need to look at when you're manifesting is working on what sort of actions that you need to take. It's true that there are a lot of things that are just going to manifest magically, even before you put it on the list, by just simply asking for it, just simply thinking about it. I would say maybe 10% of the things are just going to happen magically without you having to do anything. But many of the things that we have to do require us to take some sort of an action. I've heard people say that you need to take the action to show the universe that you're serious about really wanting it. And because I'm a Virgo and I can spiral out and just go crazy with like a bazillion list of 50,000 things that I need to do to make that happen, I've learned a much simpler way to do that, because there are tons of things that you could do. I simply go up to the creator and say, creator, what are the 5 most important actions for me to take to create this? The other place I go to figure out the correct things to do is I actually go and I look at different industry experts. Because there are things that we can learn about how to present ourselves to the world, right? Different things that can make the energy smooth and easy for our manifestations to come in. So before you make a 20-page list of all the things that you need to do to bring in all the things you want to create, take a moment to check with the creator. That make sense? I know yeah. I've actually shifted my to-do list to kind of work with one of the next facet of this, which is being in the right vibration, the right alignment. There's a lot of people who you go to one big weekend, you come to a seminar like this, or you do like on the full moon, like once in a while you do your big manifestation meditation where you really get into the energy. But you're going to manifest a lot more if you can actually be in the right vibration on a daily basis. So my new to-do list is actually 15 different things. I know it's pretty fancy, just writing on a notepad. 15 different things that I know bring me joy and raise my vibration that are fun and easy for me to do. And so each day I try to check off like 3 to 10 of those, depending on my day. And that's something that works really well for my brain. Because what I find is if I'm doing these things that bring me joy, that make me feel happy and healthy about myself, then it's really, really easy for me to sit down and do all the right things for my business. For me personally, if I try to lead with doing the things for my business and then trying to be happy, I end up a little bit grumpy and resentful and kind of cranky. But if I lead with, oh my gosh, I'm so happy. I just read the best book. I just walked for 20 minutes. I danced with my cat a little bit, right? Or whatever the silly things are. You know, once you've put yourself in that vibration, those divinely inspired actions that you got from the creator are going to have more of an impact because you're already in a place of joy. The energy that you are in when you ask for something can be really, really huge. When I was going through a rough patch, sometimes I'd be like, oh my God, creator, I need clients. Oh no, I don't know what I'm going to eat next, right? Okay, maybe it wasn't that dire. But when I was asking for a place of desperation and I need clients, I would get people who were not resonating with me and maybe they were a little bit needy. But when you really come to a place of absolute joy, and you're like, oh my gosh, creator, it'd be awesome if I had these soul-aligned clients who are ready for me, right? And being in that energy of plenty when you ask for something means it's going to come to you a lot kinder. Because some of those clients, there's some of those things that I may have manifested when I was in that energy of desperation or energy of panic. One of them actually fired me. So they weren't like the greatest experiences. They were definitely different learning experiences. And that can be a difficult trick for some people, because when you are in that the mindset of lack, or when you are in the energy of I don't know where it's coming from, it can be a little bit harder to get yourself into that right energy. So we're just acknowledging that, yeah, it can be kind of tough if you're in a place of lack. They've actually done studies about how your brain changes when you're in a scarcity mindset. So if you are someone who finds yourself in that area where you're like, I just don't know what's coming next, or if you're in that scarcity mindset, that before you do any manifestation exercise, just to make sure that you're doing something goofy, like maybe dancing for 10 minutes to get out of your head and into your bliss body. Because the more time that you spend in joy, in your bliss body, like in happiness, the faster and easier your manifestations can come true. So we're definitely going to be doing some dancing today too, before we do the manifesting. So the next component we're going to talk about is one that I know all three of you are already working on and working really hard on and are very, very good at, which is just making sure that you have the skills that you need to be able to deliver on whatever it is you're trying to create. All right. So for me to become a theta healing teacher, I had to sit down. I read some of those books like 8 or 10 times. Right. I consciously worked on creating the skills. Yeah. But the other thing too is to find the balance. There are some people who get so caught up and I have to know all the things and do all the things perfectly before I can do any of the things. So also knowing that balance of when you have enough skills. Does that make sense? Instead of being like, I have to know every single aspect of it before I can do any of it. So just part of it is too, we don't realize, because we're so looking at the top of the mountain, right? We're like, that's the amount of knowledge I want to attain. And we're so focused on getting all of it that we forget to turn around and look down and see that we've come halfway up. And the amount of knowledge that some of us already have is pretty mind-blowing to someone out there. The way I've come to look at it, because I'm always striving to learn more, right? I'm like you guys, I love to learn. But when I'm going out there and working with new groups, I try to be the teacher that I needed 10, 15 years ago. Too often, we're trying to be the teacher that we need for ourselves now. Right? And then the last thing can be really, really hard for some healers. The last component on manifesting is allowing it to actually happen, is learning how to receive. And that's sort of what's coming up in the shift between, because we were talking yesterday about like, there's been so much masculine energy and how we've got clients before. And like a lot of us are really switching that feminine energy, that just receiving, right? Because if you are going up to the creator and getting divinely inspired actions to take, and you're listening to your heart, and you're just showing the universe who you are, then all the right people are going to flow towards you. It can be hard for some people to receive because we are so used to giving. Giving to others is really safe, right? Because when you're giving the other person happiness, you don't have to worry about you. There's no risk if you are the one always giving to others. Learning how to accept for some people makes you feel maybe that you're weak or that you're out of control because someone else is in control and giving you whatever it is. Also, receiving for some people can be foreign because we've never known what support was. When you are making your living doing one-on-one work or doing the classes, you're receiving support from your students and from your clients. Because energetically, it's just support that you're trading back and forth, right? You're teaching them something and they're giving you the money, right? So it's just a flow of support. So if you're having trouble receiving, you may want to look at, is it safe for me to receive, right? Look into how comfortable you are with the power dynamic. Are you worthy to receive from others? Is it safe and easy for you to be supported by someone else? And do you even know what it feels like to receive support? The receiving or the allowing was my big, beautiful lesson this year. Part of it is because I've put so much work into my business, right? I've had House of Kellen for like, I think 10, 15 years. It started out as just tarot and keeps evolving and growing and changing. But when I went into the hospital to have my appendix removed, I was there for 5 days. I stayed completely off social media, except to be like, hey guys, I'm doing a thing, I'll be back. But I shut down my schedule, but I also came out of the hospital with 5 new clients. Because I just went into a period of just like not trying to control it, not trying to demand, not trying to have certain things happen. And I honestly didn't have a lot of extra energy to be doing any of the promotions, any of the social media. And I had one of my best summers ever. I also canceled a bunch of classes and still had one of my best summers ever. And that was a huge lesson for me. Just let go and trust that all the right people are going to come to me at the right time. All right. So we're going to break out and go into breakout rooms in a minute. Let me just